Hello everyone, I'm Joshua.
And I'm Abe.
I'm Jay.
I'm Josh.
Hello everyone, Joshua Myers here, and welcome back to my Saw franchise review series. I just recently got done reviewing the first three Saw films, and now I'm starting off with kind of the, second trilogy era of the Saw franchise. And before I get started with this review, I would like to give a shout out here to Robbie Clark. He was the one who actually requested me to review this one. He wanted me to do a review of all the Saw films, and eventually do a ranking video, which I will get to that at some point. I'm actually just, I'll do that after I'm done reviewing, Saws 4 through Saw 7, Saw 3D. So, once I'm done with those, then I will do a ranking video for you. Anyway, the movie I'm going to be reviewing is Saw 4 from 2007.
You think it's over? You think you're safe? You are wrong. My work will continue.
Saw 4, rated R, in theaters October 26th.
Saw 4 stars Tobin Bell, Costas Mandylor, Scott Patterson, Betsy Russell, and it's directed by Darren Lynn Bousman. The plot of Saw 4 is that SWAT Commander Riggs is abducted and thrust into a game. The last officer untouched by Jigsaw has but only 90 minutes to overcome a series of demented traps and save his old friend, Detective Eric Matthews, who's still alive, or face the deadly consequences. And here's the thing, before I get into my positives and negatives, I actually would like to point out, I actually just recently started to write down notes for my reviews now, because sometimes I do forget some of my points I try to make, so I tried to, compile. I'm now trying to compile my reviews with notes and everything like that to get, basically have my thoughts and everything. And also, I'm now just recently I started doing adding additional segment to my positives and negatives, which I add mixed thoughts, which basically are thoughts that I don't necessarily know where to put this, whether it be positive or negative. It could change vary depending on, just certain things, so I'm adding that too now to my reviews. But anyway, let's just get on to my, thoughts on this movie. One of the biggest positives I could give this movie are the practical effects, like the set design and everything with the traps and just all that stuff. Even the gore effects, which we'll get to that in my negatives as far as just the gore itself. But whether you like the gore or not, you cannot deny that the gore in this movie is downright impressive as far as on a practical effects technicality. Basically, technically speaking, they're brilliant effects, actually. You have a freaking, the opening scene is basically, a forensic, the forensics, basically cutting Jigsaw, Jigsaw's dead corpse, which even his dead corpse is impressive. It's almost like they basically molded Tobin Bell's whole entire body and actually gave a lot of detail in that. To the point where it's there's a moment where you actually do get to see his junk, and I'm like, I didn't want to see that when he's alive. I especially don't want to see that when he's dead. So, yeah, good start, movie. Good start. But it's still rather impressive, actually. It looks like Tobin Bell if he were dead. I gotta give props to that. Also, when they start to cut into him and everything, that stuff looks real. They must have done research on that, as far as, mortician work and that. They must have done research on that. Because it looks so real, the way they handle it looks real. I mean, I'm not a mortician or anything, but I've been in a lot of hospitals, throughout my life, so I mean, I've had myself get cut open and that, because certain stuff, but like surgeries and that. So, and it's even impressive to the point where it's there. They can interact with it, you know, taking out like different like body parts, like stomach or the brain or stuff like that, and even the intestines and the insides, like the brain and everything like that, looks real too. Even though I was kind of grossed out at that scene, like legitimately, like I was both grossed out and impressed by it because of just the technicality of it. To where honestly, that's probably my favorite practical effect from the whole movie. Actually, is kind of the autopsied, uh, John Kramer, dead corpse that they had to, perform on. Like, that is impressive. Whether you like gore or not, you gotta admit, that's impressive special effects there. Also, another thing I really dug about this movie is the music by Charlie Clouser. I think he still got it. I still think, I will say it's still not as good as his other films. Like, still definitely not as good as music from the first three movies, but he still got it. And these are basically thoughts that I'm like, I don't really know about, like, there's some stuff I do like about it, some stuff I hate about it, but, that's why I'm putting in this, these thoughts into this section. And one of the things I have mixed thoughts on is the way they tried to blend, this movie with, the previous films, all three, and the way that ties in together and that, I think, at least as far as scene transition-wise and everything like that, like, when they cut away from a scene from this movie and cut away to a scene from Saw 3, I felt like they did a really good job with that. But other times I felt like it's, it feels like they're just kind of, it definitely feels like it doesn't necessarily belong with Saw 3 in a sense. I don't know what, it just feels like, this was a studio saying, we meant Saw 3 to be the last film in this franchise, because we, axed off our main characters in that. So, now what do we do? And this is the first film in the series that starts to kind of feel like that, like they don't really know what to do anymore with this franchise. And it kind of feels like that, I mean, again, I still think the way they edit it, like, basically edit the scene transitions in that as far as, blending, the scenes from Saw 3 and Saw 4 together, I think it's done well. I think the editor, Kevin Gruchert, I think it's his name, does a really good job with that. Also, I have a love/hate relationship with the scene transitions that Darren Lynn Bousman, decided to do. Like, basically, like, here's a shot for example. I kind of have a love-hate relationship with that. At times I think it's kind of cool, it's a cool effect in that. But other times, I think it's just so annoying. It's like some of the most annoying scene transitions I've seen. Well, I mean, not annoying. Just... Because I guess it's just frustrating. Because sometimes, they don't cut to anything specifically important. Like, there's a scene where there's a whole sequence with Officer Rigg and I guess this prostitute that he tried to save and everything. And it just, like, they start to fight and everything, and it kind of cuts between that and then, it's like, cut to stuff like, oh, we got prints on Officer Rigg, and stuff like that. It's like, we got prints. Did you get this through? And then it cuts back to Officer Rigg and that woman, and then it does a scene transition midway through, saying, we got the prints, it's Officer Rigg, and all that stuff. And I just feel like those scene transitions could have been cut from the movie. So stuff like that frustrates me, actually. When maybe you could cut to something more important than that. something that would serve the story a lot better. Like, honestly, the scene transitions feel like they just wanted to add additional, minutes of, footage so that they can make the film longer. That's what it felt like to me. Again, it's a cool idea, like, cool effects in that, like the way the scene transitions are handled in that, at least as far as effects-wise go. But as far as, just sometimes, placements of those scene transitions in it, not so much. Also, the acting in this film ranges just from okay to just would not be considered acting at all, and I don't mean that in a good way. Like, for example, I think the actor who plays Officer Riggs does a good job in this, especially since he's supposed to be the main character you're supposed to follow. I mean, he was the last of characters we see throughout this franchise, At least the start of the franchise. He's the last kind of connective tissue from, the previous 2 movies, like, of that first Saw trilogy, and the second trilogy. So, I think he did a pretty good job. I mean, not great, it wasn't high caliber acting or anything, but, not bad either, not awful. And then there's people like Betsy Russell as Jill Tug, aka, like Jill Tug, who was the ex-wife of John Kramer. But you do get to see a bit of her in a couple, flashback moments in the 3rd film. But that's really it. And the problem with her character for me so far is, they didn't really establish her well in these movies, and when they do start to show her in this one, it's almost like they treat it as like they already established her character in that, and it's like, and for example, it's like these 2 FBI agent characters, Special Agent Peter Strong and Lindsay Perez, go in to basically the clinic she works at, like, runs, and it's like, because they need to kind of do some interrogation on her. It's like, Jill Tuck, where is she? And it's like, pans, and it's like, almost like, trying to make her character really important when we don't even know anything much about her except for the fact that, she was John Kramer's ex-wife. That's it. We don't really get to, and there are some exposition dump, basically, talking about, that the fact she had a child that went through miscarriage, and that, Gideon, I think it's, and that, and all that. So we do get to know about that, and a bit about her relationship with John Kramer, and everything like that before, John Kramer, became Jigsaw, but outside of that, we don't necessarily really get to know what she's like, her personality, everything like that. Basically stuff, that, to care for this character, and they could have done some stuff with that, they could have done the fact that with her being, was about to become a mother and that, they could make her almost like a, mothery type of figure or something like that, or anything like that. And I don't know, I just felt like it was kind of wasted potential in this movie as far as her character goes. And plus her, Betsy Russell's acting, I think, does not really help with that whatsoever. I mean, again, no offense to the actress, but I just think she didn't do that great in this one. Also, another thing I have mixed thoughts on is the ending of this film, which, I don't know, I do like some stuff with the ending, and other stuff I don't like, they throw 2 different supposed twists at you, but in the, audio commentaries and stuff like that, they said, this is the only twist, and the stuff at the end, basically they end up revealing who, is the killer this time around. That isn't technically the main twist of this movie, but they kind of treat it like it's the main twist, even playing that Hello Zep theme. You know, if I were them, I would just put the Hello Zep theme, you know, during what they consider to be the main twist of the movie. And yeah, and just, yeah. Now let's just get on to my negatives. One of my biggest negative is just some logic issues. There's some logic issues with the... Like, this is the first film where it really starts to seem to get a bit ridiculous as far as logic goes in this franchise. You know, and it's like... I can't necessarily describe it, but there are some serious logic issues. At least the first three films seem to be a bit more grounded in that, you know, had some logic behind them. It's like, just enough to where you could buy into it. Now it's starting to be like, I'm not sure if I could really buy into this. And another issue I have is that, like, this is another big negative for me, is that they, like, while I did thought the gore effects and the traps are impressive from a technical level, as far as practical effects goes and that, you know, as far as technically, because that must have took a lot of time and effort, you know, and I'm not blaming the, you know, special effects artists or, you know, the set designers and stuff like that who had to do all this stuff. I'm not blaming them. In fact, I think they did a great job of what they had to do. But for me, my biggest problem is the fact that they keep on, like, this is the first film where you could really tell they were more focused on the traps and the gore and basically wanting to amp it up. You know, amp up the gore, some more gore, bigger and crazier traps. But honestly, for me, I think the gore and the traps you see in the first two movies especially were enough. You know, they were simple and everything like that. Because it's like, if this whole point for this franchise is to be kind of like murder mystery, you know, psychological suspense murder mystery, you know, basically trying to figure out who was behind it in that, and so, and it's like, for me, you know, the traps in the first two films, especially the first movie, were like, you know, stuff that anybody with a decent knowledge of welding could do. And therefore, there's a lot of suspects you could pick from, you know? Like, it could have been anybody. And now it's starting to get to a point where it seems like it has to be somebody, you know? Like it has to be more, like, a specific person in that, and it's kind of like, it seems like the films are starting to narrow down, like, suspects, so that you don't have to really guess who is the killer anymore. It really is starting to seem like that. But honestly, for me, that's it with my negatives. So with that said, I'm going to give Saw 4 a 2.5 out of 5 stars. Honestly, for me, again, this is a film I kind of, you know, love, well, not necessarily love, but, like, it's like, I always found either the film to be okay, you know, or just complete crap, you know, like, it's almost like, I always feel like it's, like, you know, at times, like, the worst film in the franchise, or just okay, you know. It's never been one of my favorite films in the franchise. I've always had issues with this one, but it's never been one of my favorites, you know, like, I never really loved this film, or anything like that, and honestly, even just okay, I don't consider it, like, a great movie or anything like that, even by Saw film standards, so. And, again, there's times I feel like it's passable, you know, if they wanted to continue this after Saw 3, it's passable, and other times I feel like it's basically just, you know, crap that Lionsgate and Darren Lynn Bousman just basically, you know, like, pulled out their asses, you know, it just feels like that. It was like, oh, like, here's your Saw 4. Like, it sometimes feels like that. I don't know, it's a weird thing. This is the only Saw movie where my thoughts on this film changes from time to time. Like the last time I saw this film with Josh, I absolutely hated this film. Actually, absolutely. And then this time, I thought it was just okay. You know, I don't know. It changes from time to time. Now, here's the thing. Whether I think it's okay or not, I don't think it's like the worst movie you could ever watch in regards to, complete shitfest. It's not Son of the Mask bad, or, the Fog remake bad, or stuff like that, or Hellraiser Revelations bad, it's not, like, on that level bad, but it's not great, either, or even good. I just sometimes find it okay, or just shit. Complete shit. I don't know. Again, it's a weird thing with me in this film. So that's it for this review. Thank you guys for watching, and
Will you learn how to let go?